Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. So, my son, Mason, 25 male, got with his fiancée pretty young, at 18. Now, would I have agreed with this choice? Especially for a kid that was in engineering in a top university? No. But he seemed happy, and that's what matters to me, just as long as he didn't forget about his studies and himself. My wife, on the other hand, didn't. She wanted him to do the same as our eldest two did. No dating, just focusing on school and coming out with amazing grades. They had a big argument about not only his choice of dating, but his girlfriend, Tracy, also. Nothing racist. My wife and his girlfriend are the same race. They barely argue, so this didn't hurt their relationship much, and they moved past it. What set it off was when Mason was able to qualify for an engineering program abroad for about a year. Me and my wife were obviously excited, since this would do great for his future. He would come back at least once a month, and though I wished he spent more time with us, it was normal that he would spend that time with Tracy. Well, while he was still abroad, Tracy approached us and told us she was pregnant. I was excited, but my wife was skeptical about the pregnancy and asked her straight up if it was Mason's. Tracy got offended, and they argued. She got her parents involved, who were all saying their daughter would never sleep outside of a relationship and that my wife just didn't want Mason to step up for his own kid. I told them that it was natural to get wary, since Mason was barely home, and we could all solve this with a DNA test when the baby is born. Tracy and her parents were against this idea, but after talking to Mason, he agreed, though he was a bit disappointed in his mom. Skip 9 months and a couple more weeks for the DNA test, and the baby was his. My wife apologized and now just wanted to move on. Tracy didn't. She said that she didn't want my wife involved since she stressed her out during the pregnancy, and since she doubted her own granddaughter, she shouldn't get to be in her life. My wife was absolutely broken by this and kept asking for forgiveness over and over again, but Tracy and Mason refused. It got to the point she would cry herself to sleep, and it really broke me. I called Mason to tell him to come to his senses, that his mom was just worried about him and wanted to make sure he wasn't trapped in a baby that wasn't his. He argued that she needed to hurt a little for the pain she caused Tracy. What pain? She just didn't interact with Tracy till the baby was proven to be Mason's. I called him dumb for allowing Tracy to continuously disrespect his mother like this. I told him that until he sees his mom like how a son should, he and Tracy are no longer welcomed into my house. This was her house too. More, in fact, since she stays home, and I won't have her feeling insecure in her own house. He got mad and threatened to keep my grandkid away from me, but at this point, I'm not going to be manipulated. I told him if he wants to cut me off and live happily ever after with Tracy and her family, he can do so. I hung up. He blocked me. I don't think I was wrong. My other kids are on my side and think Mason is just getting manipulated by Tracy and her family. My youngest, though, thinks I shouldn't have banned him from my house. Am I the a-hole? OP is 100% in the wrong here. There was absolutely no grounds for OP's wife to accuse their daughter-in-law of cheating. OP's wife not liking her is not a valid reason to demand a paternity test. Also, it's not their place to demand such things. If their son is happy and has no reason to suspect his fiancée, OP and his wife should not be questioning that too. If anyone is manipulating, it's OP and his wife. And now let's hear the community's opinion. So, your wife is against their relationship the whole time, argues with the girlfriend, and accuses her of infidelity. Your wife is the a-hole, and you for not telling her she was overstepping. You might have done it out of concern for your son, but you were unwelcoming and insulting to someone he has chosen to be with forever. You are still insinuating that you and your family think that she and her family are trying to manipulate him. You called your son dumb for letting his girlfriend disrespect your wife, but your wife has been disrespecting her the whole time. So you bully a pregnant lady, called her a cheater, and demanded a paternity test, and wonder why they think that I'm so rude. If I got pregnant, then my mother-in-law calls me a cheater and ignores me until I get a paternity test, which is safest to do when the baby is here. I'm going to think my mother-in-law isn't a good person and doesn't love me or my child. I wouldn't treat her as a grandma. You're the a-hole. Your wife questioned Tracy and made her feel like crap because why? She just doesn't like her. That isn't fair to your son or Tracy. Has she ever actually done anything to cause the dislike? Or is your only issue that they got together so young and now have a baby? Either way, again, you're the a-hole. For a bit of backstory, me and my stepmother used to get along, but it seemed to change in the year I turned 16. Big surprise, right? However, it wasn't anything too bad. Just small arguments, disagreements. This happened a few years ago, so I don't remember all the details exactly. First, I'll explain what happened to cause the rift that has lasted to this day. Although, when Dad told her I was pregnant, while she got mad in my defense, which shocked me. I also don't think she's too happy, because if she stops me seeing my dad now, she'll also stop him from seeing his grandchild. It started around Christmas time. My dad, brother, stepmother, and me were going to Spain to surprise my aunt for her birthday. We met with Uncle, Dad's brother, and his family, and my non and granddad, Dad's parents, both of which aren't the biggest fans of my stepmother, Granddad especially, at the airport. The flight over was fine, as I was sitting by the window with my granddad and uncle next to me, and Granddad was telling me about planes and their engines, and what it was like to fly one. He flew planes in the Army. Despite being a girl, I like all the engineering stuff my father and Granddad did. Dad still even asks me to help take his bikes apart, on the rare occasion I do get to stay with him, when there's problems with it, and has even taken me to work with him a few times, when the company will allow it, as he works on hospital broken or damaged equipment, such as oxygen pipes and sometimes hospital theaters, which I can't help with, for obvious reasons. So I can see what he does. I think this is one of the reasons as to why my stepmother never really liked me all that much, because I could understand what Dad was talking about and shared similar interests and passions. Anyway, back to the story. While we were on holiday, me and my stepmother pretty much did nothing but argue, only small, and I did my best to avoid her. I tried to sit with my dad as much as I could, because unlike my brother, I didn't see him as much, and she would tell me to go and swim. I would so as not to stress out Dad, and I love swimming, and to hang around with the others that were there. There were about 20 kids, only 2 of which were even close to my age, which were my 2 cousins, who I could never find because they were always out in town. I was the oldest child there, and after my 2 cousins, was my third, who was maybe 12 or 13 at the time. But she would let my brother go over and sit with my dad for as long as he wanted. On maybe the 3rd day there, around 9 in the evening, I got tired as I had done nothing but swimming those 3 days. So I go and find my stepmother and ask for the hotel card key to get in the room. My stepmother says no. At first I was confused, then realized if I took the card, they wouldn't be able to get in. So I added that I'll ask my brother to come with me so he can bring the card back, to which my stepmother then yelled at me, saying no, I needed to stay down with everyone. I sat back down at the table with my cousins and had a hard time not falling asleep for the next 2 hours. Thankfully, my youngest cousin had a set of cards, so me and my cousins, my brother, and some others played card games for the rest of the time. It was fun, but with me being so tired, I lost quite a lot, surprising my cousins as I ruled at the game we were playing, which wasn't fun. I can't remember the day of the argument that caused the rift, but I feel at this point I should point out that me and my stepmother had been texting each other a few months before the holiday, where I complained that my mom wouldn't let me dye my hair again, which in hindsight was a good idea as my hair was dead. To which her reply was, "You're old enough to decide if you want your hair dyed. Buy the dye and I'll do it for you if you want." On this day of the rift argument, we had planned to go out to restaurant. Nothing fancy, so it wouldn't be a formal thing. My stepmother had picked out a black all-in-one top and shorts, a romper I think it's called, which at first I thought had a white butterfly design, but when I took a closer look, it was white bows. Cute, but not something I would wear if I had something else, and I did. I told her I wasn't wearing that and had picked out something myself. A purple button shirt with short sleeves, black trousers, and a small pair of black heels. She complained to me that it was too formal. I said I don't care, and that's what I'm wearing. She proceeded to ignore me the rest of the day. Yay! And the rest of the holiday, hip hip hooray! Only paying attention to my brother. She herself ended up coming to the restaurant in a blue maxi dress with a floral pattern, which somehow looked more formal than what I was wearing. It looked good, and she got lots of compliments about it, And she kept saying she had picked it out herself. She didn't. I chose it for her. The thing she wanted would have made the dress that the 3 fairies made in Aurora look like Gucci. The only one they themselves made, not the one their magic made. The only time she spoke to me was to yell at me about showing one of the younger girls a picture of Yowie. Boy-ex-boy pairings for those that don't know. When I didn't, I showed them a picture of something my stepdad drew for me, which was a humanized version of one of my characters. I can only draw anime and flowers. I also went to a water park with my 2 uncles, Dad's brother and aunt's husband, and some cousins and my brother. I told stepmother where I was going, and to tell Dad so he doesn't worry. My brother had already told him and I couldn't find him to tell him. We were there for 8 hours. It was the most fun I had had on the holiday. When I got back, my dad came up to me and hugged me and crossly and worriedly asked where I had been. I told him I had gone to a water park and that I had told stepmother. Stepmother denied it and said that I never said anything to her. Brother called her on this though, as he was with me, but was out of sight of my stepmother. After the flight home, me and my stepmother had a massive argument in the car park while waiting for my sister's then boyfriend to pick us up. 4 in the morning. I can't remember what it was about, but I know my phone was involved with the argument, as she took it from me so I couldn't listen to music through my headphones, nor did they play music on the radio. I also wasn't allowed to play my DS either. Longest 2-hour drive of my life. And since we were in a moving vehicle, I couldn't sleep either. I spent the last night at my dad's, and in the morning, my stepmother pulled me to the side and said that I wasn't coming around anymore. I asked why. She didn't give me a valid reason. She just said because she didn't want me around anymore. She told me I was to go up to my room, take whatever I wanted with me, and that would be it. I was still annoyed from the not allowed to choose my own clothes argument, having my phone taken away, and pretty much being separated from my dad the entire holiday, and now being told that I was banned from coming to my own dad's house and seeing him. I was pissed. I went up to the room, gathered what I wanted, and was about to leave when I remembered that my stepmother would yell at me for leaving a single shirt on the floor because the room wasn't clean. Cue the petty revenge. I can be very quiet when I wanted to be, and managed to do the following within 10 minutes without anybody being any the wiser. I completely flipped the room upside down. Anything that I wasn't taking with me, I threw over the floor. Folders were thrown over the floor. Everything in the folders I had pulled out and randomly thrown everywhere. Clothes in the wardrobe were everywhere. Shoes, underwear, bedding that wasn't being used. Speaking of bedding, that was over the floor too. I even managed to get 2 full pillows through the light. The mattress half on and half off. I even brought the wardrobe down onto the floor. This took the longest. Once I was satisfied that I had done enough, I picked up my trash can and whatever was in it. You don't want to know what was in it. XD. I laid it around the front of the door, and without stepping on any of it, I left the room. I went downstairs and said I had everything and am ready to go. I said this in a sad voice, which I didn't really need to fake, but had to try very hard not to laugh. 10 minutes later and I was back at my mom's. Later that night, I get a message from my stepmother yelling at me for leaving my room in such a state. I simply texted back that I'd come and clean, but I'm banned from the house. She said she was going to tell my dad about it and that I was going to get it from him, but I never heard anything from him, so he either didn't care or she didn't tell him. Since then, she has done her best to keep me away from my dad. Within reason, she can't stop me from seeing him or force Dad not to see me, and had decided that whatever I wanted, she wanted it first. For example, I really wanted a graduated bob haircut, and I told Dad this when we were up visiting my grandparents. She overheard. The last time me and stepmother spent any sort of time together, and the next time I see my stepmother, she had a graduated bob. I've also really wanted to go to Scotland to see Loch Ness, and last year, in May, they announced they were going to Scotland, and on the 4th of July, 2 days before my birthday, Dad and stepmother are there. Pretty sure she also went to Scotland around my birthday because I invited my dad to a barbecue that we were having in celebration for it. Stepdad was okay with me inviting him. Anyway, that's enough. I could fill the whole page with stories of my stepmother, but I won't to save people's IQ. I don't know if this qualifies as vandalism, but it was my room. This may sound weird, and I don't mean it to, But it sounds like stepmom is afraid of competition for your dad's attention and affection. Sadly, some women never grow past being at the mean table in high school and stay petty, entitled, selfish Regina Georges their entire lives.